When was the last time that you wept for the lost? When was the last time that you were so troubled in your heart, you tossed, you turned at night? There's no chance of sleep because reality was setting in that somebody that you care about, that you love, that if they were to die today, they would be spending it on the wrong end of eternity. Maybe for some of you, the last time that you felt that type of sorrow was right after you became a Christian. You came out of that water, and you didn't see people the same way that you've seen them before. Maybe you've done the thing, you opened up your yearbook and it wasn't just a classmate anymore. It was a lost soul. You went home, it wasn't just a father or a mother that didn't have a relationship with the Lord. It wasn't an aunt or an uncle. It wasn't just a coworker. It was a human being that was lost. Have you experienced what Paul says, that he has unceasing, unending anguish because for him, reality was setting in that somebody and some people he cared about were lost? Maybe you've never felt that way. Maybe that feeling for you has been lost for years. Maybe it's not something that's really at the front of your mind. You don't take that serious. In Matthew chapter 4, Jesus was walking along the Sea of Galilee. And as he was walking along the sea, he came up to some men and he asked them to be fishers of men. They dropped their nets immediately and followed them. But that's not really the story I want to tell you. See, I think at that moment when Jesus came up to those men, I don't think that they fully got yet what they were about to be a part of. I seriously don't think that they understood the magnitude of this ministry. So for the next few months, years, they would literally sit at the feet of Jesus. They would soak it in. They would hang on his every word. And the whole goal that Jesus had for these men was please, please, please see people how I see people. Let me tell you, for Peter, for John, it took them a while to get to this point. They weren't just immediately devoted to those who were lost. It took, I guess you could call, the twisting of arms, the begging, the pleading, the punishing. For Peter, it took overcoming some type of personality issue, thinking of himself a lot higher than he was. It took for John, Jesus rebuking him, saying, please stop calling fire down from heaven on folks. See people how I see people. That's what I want you to understand, and that's what I want us to do today. I want you to go back to that time where you have seen people as truly lost people. And if you've never experienced that before, which is a sad reality for most Christians, you better wake up and allow reality to finally set in. I want to tell you a story about 4 people. These 4 people's names are everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was a very important task that was needed to be done at the church, and everybody was asked to do it. Anybody could have done it, but the problem was nobody did it. And so somebody got mad at anybody because nobody did what everybody could have done. I want us to understand, if we are going to truly be devoted to the lost, it's going to take everyone. See, here's what you and your generation, and honestly, to some small degree, the generation lives before you, this is what you buy into. This is what you believe. You want maximum results. You want to get maximum return on your investment, but you don't want to have to give anything. You want to see good things happen, but you just want it to come with no effort on your part. There was this man that went to a doctor. He was having some chest pains, and so he steps foot in this doctor's office. He tells him about the deep chest pains he was having, and the doctor gives him a thorough explanation of what he believes is the issue. He gives him some advice, and he sends him on the way. The next night, that doctor sees that old man at a restaurant. Interlocked into his arm is a much, much younger blonde-haired woman. He's going from table to table, shaking hands, saying, hey, have a good time. And he's telling jokes. He's laughing it up. And that very night, that doctor goes over to the man. He says, hey, man, what in the world are you doing? He said, well, I took you exactly up on your advice you gave me at the hospital yesterday. He goes, what advice was that? He said, well, I took you up on that advice to find one hot mama and to be cheerful. He said, that's not what I told you. I said, you have a heart murmur, so be careful. See, I think so many of us are like that old man. We've missed it. We've missed it. We think that ministry is something that's done to us and to us alone. We buy into this mentality, is this all about serving me? Ministry is not something that I am to get my hands in, to be involved in. It's something that's up to the elders, the deacons, the ministry leaders. We've bought into what you call a hierarchy system. And so Paul then comes in Ephesians 4. He says, the reason why I gave you the elders, the deacons, and the ministers, the reasons why I gave you the Robs, the Phils, the Malvin, is not to do the work for you, but to equip you to reach out to the saints. Yeah, you're only one. I think about what Edward Hale said. He said, I'm only one, but I'm still one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. Yeah, you're one. But when you finally grasp and get the seriousness that you have responsibility, that's when things will start to happen. So let me ask you this. How many of you in this room, raise your hand, do you believe that the work of the church is eternally important? Of course you do, okay? How many of you believe that each and every one of us have been given certain talents and abilities to use for the Lord? Okay? So see, the problem is we understand what reality is and that we have a responsibility, but the problem is we have become congregations, youth groups, full of selfish, self-soaking, self-loathing people. We're stuck in pews, we're stuck in buildings, we're stuck in classrooms, doing nothing absolutely whatsoever with the knowledge that we've been given. And so I think about how truly we handicap the church. See, when you get off the pew, or when you don't get off the pew, when you choose to not say a thing, when you choose to ignore that deep sorrow that you have for that lost soul, let me tell you what happens. The church is handicapped. When you choose to do nothing, when you choose to not be devoted, when you choose to be selfishness, it's not just you that loses out, please understand. There are people out there, one less person, one more person, two more people, three more people, four more people that aren't hearing the gospel. One more person, two more people, three more people, four more people that are hurt, that will never receive help. All because you have what I call Dead Sea syndrome. A lot of you know about the Dead Sea. It is the highest salt concentrated sea in the entire world. In fact, the salt concentration is so high that if you went to the sea right now, you could float on it. Now, some of you are saying, now, Andrew, you don't understand. I wouldn't float. I'd sink right to the bottom. No, you would even float in this sea. But the reason why it's called the Dead Sea is no animal life, no plant life can live inside of it. And here's why. There's a lot of inlets, but there's no outlets. There's plenty of stuff and places and room for stuff to come in, but there's nowhere or no possible way for that salt and that density of that water to leave. That's what's happening in the church. There's a lot of soaking and there's a lot of taking stuff in. There's a lot of clocking in, there's a lot of clocking out, but there's not really a lot of people doing anything with that knowledge. I love what one preacher said. He said that the church was never meant to be a cage full of knowledge, but was meant to be a launching pad. Why do you come to stuff like this? To keep it to yourself? See, I pray that each and every one of you will get to that point. It will probably take for you some prodding and pleading and twisting of arms. But to get to that point where you will see Jesus See people the way Jesus did. And right now we could go around the room and list all the reasons why we don't reach out to the lost, right? We could throw out, well, it's not my thing. See, my area of ministry is this. I'm going to leave that part up to so-and-so. Or we'll say, well, it's not really the thing I'm comfortable with because I'm more of a shy, a quiet personality. Let me tell you, you better get rid of that excuse quick. Because Jesus himself says, if you deny me before men, I will deny you before my Father who is in heaven. I hope you understand there is no fine print, there is no exception clause to that statement. If you don't speak out about Jesus Christ to people you see and know are lost, you will be denied entrance. You will be denied entrance. Speak up. And we could also say, well, maybe my thing is just that I'm not very well educated. If I'm honest with you, the two things I believe it is, the first one is this. I think one of the main reasons, if you go to the next slide, for some reason the clicker's kind of not working, is I don't know if we really believe in hell. I don't really see the sense of urgency within the church. I think maybe subconsciously we may believe that there is an existence of another place that's just not a lot of fun. But I don't know if we really believe in hell. See, as a preacher, I am confronted with death a good bit. And I mean this with the utmost respect I can possibly bring together. I'm not a judge. And I understand grace is big, but it's far bigger than I understand. But I've always found it so interesting that anytime anybody on the earth dies, they're all going to heaven. Everybody goes to heaven. Oh, he wasn't a faithful person. He didn't really love the Lord, but God bless him, he's in a better place. She really didn't commit herself to the church. She didn't commit herself to the worship and to the people, but I'm so glad she's with our Heavenly Father. Really. See, the statistics back this up. 3 out of 4 people believe in heaven, but 1 out of 4 Americans believe in hell. God created a universe with a heaven, and he also created one with a hell. And we have to make sure that we keep this out of the front of our minds, and we are in tune with reality. So let me ask you, when was the last time that you had a person who was not a Christian in your home? And by the way, the plumber doesn't count. When was the last time that you had a meal, had someone over, that you reached out, that you shared Jesus, that you even invited them to church with you? When was the last time you saw the sense of urgency right in front of you? I believe if we really did believe in heaven and really believed in hell, it would be seen a lot more in our actions. Some of you have probably heard of this guy named Penn Jillette. Penn Jillette is an atheist and has an atheist and agnostic radio show. And Penn Jillette had something that he said, I'll be honest, that really infuriated me. It made me angry. It made me uncomfortable. But when I explain it to you, you'll have to hear it through. He said that the reason that he believes that there's so many atheists in the world is because of the Christians. I told you wouldn't like that. But he said, well, let me explain. He said, I want you to imagine that I'm standing on the street corner with you. We walk up and I stop and you stop. We carry on a conversation. I begin to walk out on the street, not looking. But you see off in a distance a semi-truck going 70 miles an hour headed in my direction. You being a decent person are going to do what? Warn me. You're going to say, hey man, there's a semi-truck that's literally about to smack you in the face. Move back. You may even try to be a hero, dive across the road, tackle him, get him out of the way. You may yank him on the shirt and pull him back. You're going to do something. He said if heaven is in fact real and hell is in fact a reality, then why in the world, if Christians see death hitting so many people in the face, why aren't they telling anyone about it? If it is so real, shouldn't it be seen? Maybe part of the difficulty for us is we just can't fully fathom the pain. Matthew 5:29 says it's better for you to go to heaven without your eye. And he says that it would actually be better for you to get your hand, reach into your eye socket, yank your eyeball out. That would be so much more comfortable than going to hell with that eye. If I could pick one of the top, most painful, most horrifying things to have to do to myself, that's included. Maybe that doesn't do it for you. Revelation 14. As I read this passage in verse 10 and 11, I want you to read and to listen to the adjectives that are describing this reality. It says, he will drink the wine of God's wrath. Poured full strength into the cup of his anger, he will be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. The smoke of their torment goes up forever, and they have no rest, day or night. These worshipers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives this mark of its name. Here's what's sad, is so many of us joke, we laugh, we kid about hell. Let me tell you, you better have a respect for Satan. You don't have to love him. You don't have to like him. You just got to know he exists. He's working. So do you even really believe in hell? The second thing is this, if you go to the next slide, is I think sometimes we also have this attitude that heaven can wait. I love my life. In fact, I love my wife. I love my little boy Cruz. I love our Yorkie when he doesn't pee on our floor. I love my church family. I love being able to preach. I love being around Christians. I love to eat. I love to go to the beach. I like going to the bay. I like to kayak. I love so much about this beautiful earth that God has created. But here's my problem, and I think this is your problem too, is we get so invested and so in love with here. We get so entrenched with our desires here, engaged in just the people here, that without even sometimes realizing it, what we do is this. We slowly, more and more, push God and heaven out of the picture because we like it here. Yeah, there's times of difficulty. There's times where it doesn't seem so easy, but for the most part, it's pretty good. And so for you, maybe you're like me, you get to the point where it's more of an attitude of, you know what, I'm enjoying my life, and it's hard for me to think about heaven. It's hard for me to fathom something being greater than this. Psalm 84:10 is awesome. It says, better is one day in your courts, O Lord, than 10,000 days anywhere else. I want you right now to think of the most beautiful place you've ever been to. Picture it. Maybe it's the beach. I want you to picture the most beautiful thing you've ever experienced. Maybe it's a wedding. Maybe it's the birth of a brother or a sister, a son, a daughter. Maybe it's that vacation that you saved up for years and it felt like you had no worries in the world. What the psalmist is saying, that what you're experiencing there, you will experience 10,000 times better with me. But still, we continue to act like heaven can wait. Revelation 21:4-5 says, he will wipe every tear away from our eyes. There will be no more death, no more crying, no pain. The old things have passed away. He was seated on the throne and said, I am making everything new. Intellectually, do I think we believe in heaven and hell? Yes. But practically speaking, and by the way we live, I don't know if our actions really show it. See, because if heaven and hell were really at the front of your mind, what I just talked about in my first lesson would not even be needed. Seriously. I shouldn't have to talk about us being devoted to worship, to showing up to worship God. We are spoiled. And it shouldn't even be a question to even reach out to the lost, because we wake up every day with the reality, I am on the good side of eternity. I am in that relationship that is pursuing righteousness. I'm headed in the right direction. Hey, why don't I bring some more folks with me? See, if it truly was on the front of our minds, I believe our actions would be so much different. So we have to throw the excuses out the window. Let me show you what devotion looks like. In John chapter 4, Jesus was walking up to this woman at Jacob's well. And to say that he broke down social barriers is probably the greatest understatement. He broke down social barriers, attitude barriers, sin barriers, and the list can go on. He comes up to this woman. Number one, it's odd because men and women during this time didn't speak to people in public. They didn't speak to each other in public. You're not used to what we're experiencing today. But number two, not only did men and women not talk to each other, but Jews never had anything to do with Samaritans. And so here was Jesus talking to this woman in public, not just a woman, in the Jews' mind, a dog, a half-breed. But there's more to the story. Not only was he talking to a woman, not only was he talking to the Jews' mindset that they called them half-breeds, but he was also talking to a woman with very, very despicable character. She had had 5 husbands, and the man that she was living with at the time wasn't even her husband, but that's still not the story. See, Jesus comes up to this woman. He offers her a new life. Said, you know those relationships that you're in and you've been in? I know that's what seems like it's just a part of your life and that what you're always going to experience. He said, but I'm about to make something new. I'm going to give you something that will literally cause you to never thirst again. What he is saying is this: you're trying to find things to fill the void. You're looking to people, things, cravings. Stop. I am your craving. Thirst for me, and the water that I will give you will be like a new life inside of you, and you will never thirst again. She takes Jesus up on it, but here's what really happens that I want you to get. This woman of despicable character, this woman who definitely was not, having the whole first 5 books of the Old Testament memorized. She hadn't had any formal training in ministry. She didn't grow up in Bible class after Bible class, year after year, quarter after quarter. Her relationship with Jesus Christ was brand new. And guess what she did? She kept it to herself. Right? She was excited about what she had, and she went home and laid in bed and soaked it all in. She patted herself on the back because she was elect. She was the saved. This woman hightailed it to the town. This woman with hardly any knowledge, with a despicable view from people, and had been involved in every horrible sin. All it says is this: this woman just told people about her encounter with Jesus Christ. Was it elaborate? I don't think so. Was it super deep? I don't think so either. And it says because this woman solely just taught Jesus, the town emptied itself because of this woman's testimony. Let me tell you, we all have a conversion story. You're all here as a result of somebody showing love, compassion, of seeing you as somebody that's not just a son, a daughter, a classmate, a co-worker. You were a lost soul. What are you doing with your knowledge? Each and every Sunday, the doors of church buildings are opened all across America. The preacher comes in with keys, unlocking doors. People file in one after another, sit in the little chairs in their little classrooms. The kids go to the cradle roll. The adults sit in the pews. Other adults sit in the fellowship hall in their classes. They take notes. They highlight. They educate and they learn. All for what? For what? When was the last time that you wept for the lost? When was the last time that you were so troubled in your heart? You tossed, you turned, because reality started to set in that someone you care about, that if they died right now, they would be spending it on the wrong end of eternity. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for this day that you blessed us with and this opportunity we have to see you and for what our relationship with you should really be like. Lord, help us to be a people that just aren't a bunch of filing cabinets, but we're people that are truly giving out your message. God, we have so much to be joyful about, to be excited about. And Lord, I pray that it's seen in our everyday life. And that when we see people who are lost, that we don't just see them as a lost person that's gone and nothing that we can do about, but we make every effort to reach out to them. To not just share a pew, to not just shake a hand, but to show love and to tell a story. And Lord, although our knowledge in this room may be different, there's going to be some of us that are greater in understanding of things. Help us to understand that what you just want them to know is you. Help us just to share the story of Jesus. And we ask all these things in your Son's name. Amen.